they're not designed to be on 24/7, right?
Yes.
The half-life of these suckers are not 24/7 for 10 years, right? They don't expect, I mean, besides my 14-year-old, they don't expect your TV to be on 24 hours a day.
Hey, and if your 14-year-old is still in the house, after 10 years, I mean, I know
He's got 3 years, 2 months, and 14 days.
he shouldn't be there long enough to burn out a display.
On this episode of AV Week, the state of BYOD in the AV industry, the power of API in AV, and consumer versus commercial AV products. All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
We can't say the future without AI. I mean, there's no way around it. 50% of workers now believe AI is going to improve their experience. When I come into the meeting room, I need a way to incorporate my AI with what's going on in the meeting. It's almost a bring your own AI type of a concept. Most of what we do in our day-to-day is going to change significantly.
Hear the latest AV trends and predictions in this episode of Crestron's Smarter Spaces podcast on your preferred podcast platform.
This is AV Week, episode 612, recorded Friday, May 12th, 2023. Enough to be dangerous. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week. First and foremost, the most world-traveling, globe-trotting friend that I have, Bren Walker from Kirkegaard. Welcome, ma'am.
Hey, Tim. I actually just got back from a month in France. It was fantastic. Today, I'm in Cleveland, and I'm in my sister's office with my buddy, Dwight Schrute.
I'm not going to ask you which is better, Cleveland or France, because you've got your sister involved in that one. So.
And it's my mom's birthday. She's 92 today. So I got here just in time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Mr. Garth Lobban, you know him and love him. He is from Atlona. Welcome, sir.
Hello. How you doing today?
And last but not least, a young man that I've met through a couple different friends, Suleyman. Usman. Suley is from SUUSCONNECT out of Atlanta. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Tim. Nice to be on this and meet everybody. And I did not just come back from France.
I didn't either, Suley. That's okay. We have a club. We'll meet after this. All right. A couple things. We're recording this on the 12th, so let's call it a month out from InfoComm. And it's a lot. So, but the 14th through the 16th, don't misunderstand. I run marketing for an integrator. We've got a booth. It's a lot to me. So, but y'all that are going, you're going to have a blast. 14th through 16th of June. I'm going to have a blast too, so don't misunderstand that. So you can go by infocommshow.org. You can use AVNation as a code. You can use Atlona as a code. You can use, whichever one, CTI as a code. If you don't have a code, just throw it out on Twitter and somebody will get you a code. But we will see you down in Orlando the 14th through the 16th of June. First story, Audinate has announced the launch of a new API for my buddy Bradford, application programming interface that will enhance the interoperability and flexibility of its Dante audio networking platform. The new API will enable developers to create custom applications that can communicate with Dante-enabled systems and devices. It also helps integrate the audio networking with other technologies and workflows. Audinate also achieved the AWS Technology Partner status, which recognizes the company's commitment to providing secure and scalable audio networking solutions for the cloud. Brandon, I'm going to start with you on this. How does this help Audinate help the users, help the folks that are using this on a daily basis, and then how does it help the dealers as well?
Well, I think the biggest thing that it does is it just broadens the footprint for Audinate, and it opens up. I love APIs, and I think that they are the fastest way to get people who are, quote, non-coders into situations where they can code, or at least use things that would be done as a part of coding. So it widens everything. I mean, I was recently on my trip. I went to Namur, Belgium, and met with an engineer there. And I bet that we're going to end up using some part of this to have him do a remote recording session with one of my clients in the US, right? Because we're going to be able to put all those stems in the cloud. So I'm counting on it being great. I think it further solidifies Dante as a standard, and it to me it's a brilliant move. I was once on a consultant steering committee call with a certain manufacturer who was trying to decide whether or not to do an API or to let others build their own things. And another of the consultants talked them out of the API. I thought it was a tragic mistake, because APIs, they're a shortcut to getting people up and going, and they spark innovation. Once people can see what's available to them from it, it just makes things broader and blossom. So I like it a lot, and I think it helps everybody. Of course, there are going to be the issues, but you work out the issues. Not a big deal.
Garth, from a manufacturing standpoint, you guys have the back end code. So, how does this help, Atlona, but also how does it help the users as well?
Well, I'll echo Bren's statements, because it's important for manufacturers to open up their APIs so that more people adopt these technologies. And what's smart about this with Audinate and their footprint in live audio and getting more and more into Dante video, this allows people to better control not just where the audio goes, but where the video goes, and ultimately a control system that would allow that to happen. Now, in the press release, they mentioned that Crestron also has this API, which is smart for them because it allows them, Crestron, to control not just the AV in the room, but also to control where the audio and video goes throughout the room using Dante. For us, on our side, we have an API available for our AV over IP system so that people get in and control it easily if they're not using our velocity control system. And then with Dante's API now open, we can look at that, and we can look at ways that we can incorporate more Dante capability within our velocity control system. So as Bren says, it's just a smart move, because you can still have your proprietary products, your proprietary technologies, but opening it up so that these systems can be more inclusive of multiple manufacturers to meet the customer's needs, that's really what we need to do.
Bren, I want to ask one follow-up to here. Had a conversation with my buddy Steve Greenblatt. Steve, if you don't know, is the guy who owns and runs Control Concepts, and he also hosts our State of Control podcast here on AVNation. He and I had a conversation along with Brittany DeCesare from his office about kind of their push into InfoComm, like why they're going. They don't have a booth, but they're certainly going and meeting with folks like Garth, right? And really quickly, Steve is 30 years ago. Steve was a Crestron programmer. That's how he got started in the industry, right? And his company has evolved the last couple of years into creating sometimes some of these APIs or interfacing with some of these APIs. He made a statement, though. He said, these APIs help the industry evolve and push into that IT-centric part. It helps us evolve more into the IT-ness of the customers. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. And it's because it's about moving away from the local installation or the local instance, right? And an API with connected with the cloud server basically takes you away from just what's happening with your local instance. And this is the next part of AV moving from hardware to software codecs. This is just the next evolution of it. So I agree completely. And eventually we'll stop thinking about it being a separate sort of thing about it being IT, right? And that it's just a part of how technology overall works, whether it's quote unquote information technology or media technology. Everything is going to interface with the cloud, is going to need to have wide area and wide adoption. Now, there could be, when you have this sort of global potential for global impact, the threats in the marketplace will start to come from different places. right? Because there will be someone somewhere who will see what they can do with the API, and they might all of a sudden start nibbling at somebody's lunch. So I would just say that anybody who's an established player has to be aware that this is going to make it easier for people who are not players yet to come into their domain. But, overall for the customer, that's a good thing because competition's a good thing. So, but yes, he's right. Got to meet him. I don't think I've met Steve. You should connect us if he's going to be at InfoComm.
He will be, and I will do that, certainly. Just not right now because my computer's somewhere. Oh, I don't know where my computer is. Mitchell has my computer, I'm certain. Next story comes to us actually from AV Magazine, discussing the importance of using commercial-grade products in professional AV projects. The author argues that while it may be tempting to use consumer-grade products in order to save costs, doing so can lead to a host of problems such as increased downtime, poor performance, and reduced lifespan of the equipment. Post goes on to explore some of the key differences between commercial-grade and consumer-grade products, such as build quality, reliability, and warranty support. Ultimately, the author concludes that using commercial-grade products is essential for ensuring the success of professional AV projects, and that investing in higher quality equipment will pay dividends in the long run. So there's a couple things with here, and I told the group this story beforehand really quickly. I had a job here in St. Louis. Customer came to us and we were doing a video wall. I'm like, oh, hey, I can get the same relatively sized display for a 1/10 of what you want to charge us. We're just going to go that direction. And like, okay, that's fine. And then a year later, we're replacing it. There's a couple things with that. Number one, I'm an old failed programmer. You don't have RS-232, and this is a long time ago, kids. You didn't have RS-232 in those consumer products. Number two, they're not designed to be on 24/7, right? The half-life of these suckers are not 24/7 for 10 years, right? They don't expect, besides my 14-year-old, they don't expect your TV to be on 24 hours a day.
Hey, and if your 14-year-old is still in the house, after 10 years, I know certain things going on with that generation, but, got to give him the boot, baby.
He won't be. He's got 3 years, 2 months, and 14 days.
He shouldn't be there long enough to burn out a display.
All right, Suley, help me out on here. How do we get the users? How do we get the end customers to understand this balance between the consumer grade and the commercial grade?
Unfortunately, I think that we're looking at a couple of different things. One is the status of the actual consumer, right? I think the larger the company, when they start talking about, we can get something cheaper going on the consumer side, that's when you start questioning, really? You don't have the money to kind of handle, equipment that's actually going to get the job done for you. But then when you look at the smaller companies, you bring in a few other factors, right? Maybe budget is of concern to them. They certainly don't understand about the longevity of the equipment, the fact that it's 24/7, 356, can stay on that long. They probably don't care. My experience on the mostly on the live AV side, I've run into that with hotels since I was in charge of hotels, where we very much got that kind of a response, which is, well, we're just going to go get the consumer version of this. I think that when it comes to trying to convince customers, you really have to go through those steps. And I don't know that you're going to be able to convince them if their funds are not there, or if they feel that they're not going to keep that device on 24/7, 365, or if they just feel that it's not worth it overall to just have that device in there, maybe because they've got the stigma that because it's professional grade, it's going to cost twice as much, or 3 times or 4 times as much. All of those things play a part. So I think that it's just your regular sales job that you have to go through.
Stu, I want to ask a follow-up here before we get further. You mentioned something there that's very important. That's the funds aren't there, right? The budget isn't there. How do you get to the total cost of ownership, which is a phrase that I learned very early on, but I loved it and I've held on to it. How do you get to that conversation? Because as I mentioned in my story, a year later, we're already replacing these suckers, right? Whereas had they purchased the commercial grade, they wouldn't have been. How do you get to that TCO?
I think a really good way to do that would be almost like a case study kind of approach, right? Where you can tell them, look, this was what we went through with a previous customer purchasing a consumer grade. As much as we advised them not to, this was what we went through. And let me just break that down for you in terms of what you're spending up front versus what you're going to end up spending after the fact. If you're looking at a disposable 12 months from now, or maybe 24 months from now, then sure, go through that. But if it's not the disposable that you want, and you want that long-term efficiency from a product, it's really in your best interest to pay the little bit more that's going to end up giving you that value for money.
I can tell you, Tim, that the way that we do it, the thing that I found the most motivating has been warranty, right? And tying warranty to that conversation about the lifetime cost. And the other thing is, as a designer, I feel it's our responsibility to say, okay, we know you've got this budget, and you actually have, maybe your budget is $900K, but you've got 1.4K in wishes and desires. So 1.4 million. So let's talk about prioritizing where we're going to put that money, so that the thing that you least will want to have to change is not impacted by trying to go for low budget products. Because if they even have a little bit of knowledge, it's enough to be dangerous, and they are going to go on the web and go to Amazon or Sweetwater or whatever, and they're going to find these devices. I mean, I've had this happen recently on a project where the venue side of the house, we were able to maintain everything at professional grade, and then on the administrative side of the facility, conferencing, offices, things like that, they went to some consumer grade products, but it's all stuff that they themselves can take out and replace, right? So they've swapped some things that had metal, and now they have plastic, and I'm like, just so you know what you're doing, that plastic is more likely to wear out sooner. You be aware of what you're doing and make it something that you can service yourself, so that you don't end up at least paying in installation costs if you can help it. But to me, it's got to be an early conversation around prioritization. So
that installation cost is one of those hidden costs, that not like dealers do it, nefariously, but that is a hidden cost when you start talking about, we can just replace it in a year. Yeah, that's fine, because you're going to pay X, but you're also going to pay X if you're not able, like Bren says, to do it yourself. Garth, you wrap this one up for us. Contrast here, consumer versus commercial, and the cost benefit analysis here.
I do it in two ways. To Bren's point, there are consumer grade and professional grade monitors. Look at the Sony Bravia line. The Sony Bravia that you pick up at a white goods store or a Costco, it may have IP control and it may have a 1-year warranty. But a Sony Bravia, also same size, say a 75-inch, you look at its manual, it will tell you that it's designed for 24/7 use. It's designed with a 3-year warranty. The breakdown right there is the cost to the customer or their future cost. You can buy this inexpensive monitor and save money today, or you can buy the more expensive one and keep it running for a long period of time. And all of this, including Solei's discussion of experience, reminds me of a friend of mine, a fellow by the name of R. Bob Adams. I know he's known in the industry. He once told me that he would work with houses of worship looking to put a system in, and they would buy 3 systems: the one they could afford, the one that fixes the one that they could afford, and then the one that they ultimately bought that solved the original need. And this goes to Solei's point of references, right? He says case studies. I would also say references, because people like to talk to people who are in their similar situations. Yeah. So getting your group of references together, Madam or Mr. Integrator, people who are friendly with you and people that you've worked with that can share these stories to the concerned customer. Well, why should I spend this money? Well, talk to my customer here. He's gone through what you've gone through. And that might be able to tie a ribbon around that why professional versus consumer.
Yeah, that's a good word there. Last story here comes to us from our website, actually. LG announced their latest range of business solution monitors, which offers IT professionals expanded flexibility. Some of the key features of the new monitors, such as enhanced connectivity options, ergonomic designs, and advanced display technologies that provide high quality visuals and reduce eye strain. Also, these monitors are super thin. You can take them and post them pretty much anywhere. Not quite with a sticky note, but it's really close. This led me down a kind of a BYOD, and Garth, I'm going to start with you on this. We were already in a bring your own device, BYOD mode before COVID, right?
Yes.
COVID happened. Everybody is health concerns here, and certainly, you don't want to share surfaces or devices that other people have touched, possibly because you don't know where they've been.
Mm-hmm.
So where are we at today, Garth, when it comes to BYOD in the industry?
Well, it's interesting. It's still with us, but in a more interesting way. Before, it was a bring your own device, which by association, bring your own meeting, bring your own codec. How do you wish to meet? And today, we have a situation in which many of us have gotten used to not having to be in an office. So we go into the office less frequently. Mm-hmm. We also go into the office with that device that's going to hold the meeting. So what we're seeing, and what I think they're playing at here, LG, is this concept of hoteling. Since we don't have physical offices as much anymore, they're still there, but we don't always live there. Maybe we're temporarily working in a room, or we're going to a WeWork, this sort of thing. What LG's doing with these kinds of monitors is they're devising monitors that will work in these increasingly smaller spaces when there are one. For example, the first monitor in there is a 27-inch monitor, which you said you could basically put that on your cubicle wall. Yeah. Think about the shrinking of the workspaces that we have, if we even have a workspace. So being able to place that relatively flat monitor onto a wall with a USB-C connection, which will also power up to 65 watts anyway, your laptop, you can get to work a lot quicker. And there's a little plug-in on the top on one of their designs that it has the little web camera on there. But where we are today is that, these small meeting spaces seem to be getting smaller, and people want to come in and just start to connect and meet. So that's where they're coming in with these very unique monitors. The other one that they have is basically a stacked monitor display. It's called a 2-up. With a single display, you basically have two 27-inch monitors, so to speak, kind of stacked on top of each other. Again, think of a small space, no desk space at all, perhaps, in these little portable cubicles that they're showing it being used in. And so for these data hounds that have got maybe a quad screen in front of them, this could replace one of them and get a second one side by side. Two monitors, you got much bigger tableau to work with as far as your data that you're spreading across. I think it's rather unique what they're trying to do here, but it's just meeting a need of smaller, meeting spaces when you even go in to have one.
So it's interesting. I've been doing some research on from both Gartner and CBRE. CBRE is big, ginormous retail or commercial real estate company. What Garth was just talking about is 100% true. The space per employee is shrinking as various leases are coming up and folks aren't renewing, and so these management companies are looking at ways to reduce the overall cost, but also reduce the overall space. Bren, you've probably got more experience with that very thing and looking at cost per employee and space per employee. So where are we hitting here with BYOD?
Well, it's funny. I was thinking about just now how I want one of those. I haven't been back. We have 3 offices. I haven't been in one of our offices since 2019. But you
have a very lovely office in St. Louis. I want to point out.
I know, and I haven't even been in it. So as someone who travels, it's. Oh, and trying to, you speak about the data hounds. If you do design, try to look at drawings on a 14-inch laptop screen and really try to conduct a meeting that way and see all the participants and everything else. So I think it's the more the better. The one thing that I thought about as I read that article is how little I needed my power converter when I was in Europe because of all the devices that I could charge via USB-C, and how that is even more revolutionary than what is happening with these monitors, because it really does make the world flat, right? And it just before it's like you're carrying all these different things, and I'm like, no, I have one. And then I've got a USB-C cable that I'm plugging in Luxembourg and in Belgium and in France and wherever. So I love it all.
So that reminds me, a dear friend, Joe Cornwall, who just recently retired from Legrand. He was the first person I ever met that was, oh my gosh, so gung-ho about USB-C for exactly that reason, Bren. Right. And he preached the wonders of USB-C for years, until he retired here recently, and he probably still is, bothering people in Southern Florida for that. Sule, we'll let you kind of wrap this one up. What is the present state of BYOD in the corporate space?
When I look at that and I compare it to this product, I mean, I don't think that we're going down the wrong road. I don't think you can go wrong with BYOD. I think that you can't not wrangle it, I guess, because of the security factor of, IT departments are very concerned about people bringing their own devices and plugging in wherever they want to, plug in. You've got USB cables that, or rather outlets that you're being told now in airports and hotel lounges that you shouldn't plug into those because you can get nefarious downloads through that. I think that from the corporate standpoint, it's going to continue. You're going to continue getting BYOD. You have to embrace it. And the fact that you're getting products like this that you can literally hang on your cubicle, I think it's a good thing. I think what corporate needs to do, though, is they need to look at how they can make the cabling much more pretty, right? So you can hang that on the cubicle, but then you're going to have all these cables again coming, all over the place. So there's some aesthetics that will have to be involved unless they end up doing something that's wireless, I guess. But I don't think you can stop the BYOD trend in corporate.
And I think further to that point, over time, it actually will be better for IT, because the biggest stumbling block for users is always interface. How do I do X? So if they're using a device that they're familiar with, they will need you less.
That's not a bad thing, I don't think.
That's not a bad thing.
All right, that's a good place to stop. Bren Walker from Kirkegaard, thank you, ma'am. How do people connect with you?
Bren at Kirkegaard.com or Brenda J. Walker on LinkedIn. And I just want to say that this InfoComm will be my first InfoComm as an Avixa board member. And I want to hear from people out there. Please approach me and tell me what you like or do not like. Okay? I really want to hear from folks. I think that we as a board and as an organization have to do a good job of reaching out to our member companies and individual members and making sure we're serving you the way you want to be served. So look for me at InfoComm. Come talk to me. Tell me anything that's been grinding your gears. I want to hear about it.
All right, very good. Mr. Lobban, thank you, sir. How do people connect with you or Atlona?
Well, you can reach me at garth.lobban@atlona.com. And keeping the InfoComm theme moving, we are going to be at stand 4471. We're celebrating our 20th year in business, so we'll have a couple of happy hours on the first two nights. And if you are looking for a passcode, as Tim mentioned at the top of the hour, you can use ATL175. Get yourself a free floor pass, and I'll see you at the show.
Drinks on Garth.
Very nice. Sule, very nice to meet you, sir. Virtually at least. How do people connect with you or SUUSCONNECT?
They can reach me on my email, Suley, SULEY, at SUUSCONNECT.com. I'm on Twitter at Sule Usman, and I'm also on LinkedIn, Sule Usman at LinkedIn. I'm also at InfoComm. Yay, all of us going to InfoComm. I am conducting a session. I'm presenting a session on recruiting and hiring and changing we're looking at reframing the approach to recruiting and hiring in the audiovisual industry. That is taking place on Tuesday the 13th at 1:30 p.m. I don't have the room number in my head, I'm sorry, but if you're interested in that, please attend, because it really is about reframing. I'm not going to follow the usual pattern of, just talking about how to recruit or hire. It is about reframing. It's totally about saying, this was the way we used to do things. You now have to kind of step up. You got to take AI into consideration and do a whole bunch of things. So love to see you there.
We should be talking about that, man.
We
could talk about that, let me tell you.
I was going to say, we have a half an hour program. We can keep recording, though, for Mitchell. To find Sule's session, go and look for it when you register. You can register for right there and check him out on Tuesday. For Tim Albright, do not follow me on the Twitters. I'm still a Bears fan, and that's all I'm going to say about that right now. But go by the website if you would, please. AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You will find this program and a host of others, including our previews for InfoComm. Those by the time this posts, those will have started to post, because Mitchell has been working his fingers to the bone, and those will be ready to rock and roll. We will be heading there. If you want to use Garth's code, that's fantastic. If you want to use AVNation's code, that's also fantastic. I mentioned my day job. I run marketing for CTI out of St. Louis. We have a booth, 4101. You can come by there, and you can win some money. I'm just going to put it like that. So, if you're an end user, Bren, you're not eligible.
Cash and drinks. This is going to be a great show.
And you haven't been back to St. Louis either, Bren. So
Fair. You know what? I promise you that I will get to St. Louis before the Bears get to the Super Bowl.
Whoa! Oh! Which will happen right after the Browns get to the Super Bowl. All right.
Even Dwight is crying for the Bears and the Browns.
All right. But yeah, go by our website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.